Everyone, welcome to a brand new episode at Women of Community Banking podcast. We've got Wendy with us. Hi, Wendy. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Okay, you know how am I, right? I'm almost about to catch a flight in the next 2 hours, wrapping up this interview within 30 minutes, and then I'll take a Uber. That's how I am right now. So that's the current state of life, right? But Wendy, thank you for accommodating to talk to us today. We really appreciate you coming to the platform and sharing your journey. So who Wendy is? Wendy is the newly joined CEO of FirstMark Credit Union. Uh, Wendy, firstly, congratulations, a huge round of congratulations from all of us on joining FirstMark. It's great.
Thank you.
A bit about her background. So I think Wendy comes with 3 decades of experience. I was talking to Wendy. I'm like 31, and she has like 3 decades of experience in credit unions. So that's like extreme, right?
You were barely born when I
Yeah,
started.
okay, Wendy. That's I know I'm a kid. I'm like a son. I know that. That's reality. But okay, I pretend to be much more older, so it's good, right? So this is the seventh credit union Wendy has joined. Can you imagine? She's joined almost 5 months back. 30 years of experience serving the credit union mission vision every single day, right? So that's the reason which fascinated us to invite Wendy to the show. So let me quickly start the show with one question. So Wendy, do you want to talk about your journey so far? It's been like fascinating for all of us.
Thanks. Yeah, happy to. Um, so I started, like many others in this type of position, I started in a branch. And it was a job at the time. It was my first grown-up job, right? I got to dress up for work. I had been a college student working retail up until that point. And I really enjoyed it, but it took a while for me to see it as a career. Coincidentally, that credit union was Andrews Federal Credit Union. It was a branch in Germany. And after coming back to the States, I finished my degree in marketing. I was working for a really small credit union there. And as is the way with very small credit unions, although I was hired as an admin assistant, they said, "Ooh, you can be our marketing person too," which didn't consist of much, but I was thrilled to do it and add that to my resume. And then we moved again and again got hired by a credit union. And at this point, I thought, okay, this must just be it. I am destined. In both those instances, I had applied other places, and the companies that hired me were credit unions. So I'm like, all right, I got it. This is what I'm meant to do. And just never looked back. I love it. It's in my blood and can't imagine myself doing anything else. So you mentioned seven credit unions, and all different sizes, cultures, fields of membership. Um, that small credit union I mentioned was in Arizona. Then I worked for two credit unions in Utah. I moved to California for my first executive level position, and I was there about 15 years. And then I moved to Sound. Um, and I was there 7 years before coming here to FirstMark earlier this year.
I think you're a lifer. You're a credit union lifer, and I've been this in this journey for the last 3 years. I used to work for the large Fortune 500 firms, but after coming to credit unions, neither do I want to go back doing something else. I want to work with credit unions at least for the next decade for sure. I cannot talk about my entire life, but for surely for the next decade, right? It's an amazing ecosystem. Now, Wendy, coming on to your new role, right now, obviously you're just freshly minted into this new role. I want to talk about your first 100 days, first 200 days, right? So my question is, what has surprised you, the most, stepping into the CEO role, and what has been the topmost priority that you have right now, joining a new role?
Well, I spent a lot of the first 100 days listening and learning. one of the things I think I learned fairly early in my career is you don't know when you go into a new role.
Yeah.
Um, and especially coming from outside the organization, I knew I had a lot to learn. I had done a lot of research about FirstMark in preparation for the interview and then the role. Um, but what you learn from that resource only gets you so far. And then when you're in the organization, some of the thoughts I had were immediately debunked. And so I have learned to be humble enough in my career to know when to admit that I'm wrong and adjust course accordingly. So I've done some of that, evaluated where strengths and opportunities are, really just getting to know the team and evaluating the credit union and the market. Looking for an opportunity to differentiate. FirstMark is $1.2 billion and located in San Antonio, Texas. And if anyone knows anything about San Antonio, it's a vibrant community and it is saturated with financial institutions.
Yep.
So, where in some markets, being a $1 billion credit union, you might be the big one in the market, but not so much here. We have some very large institutions, and the credit union hasn't really grown much in the last decade. So, my objective is to find a way to differentiate in this market. I told
Yep.
my team we need to be innovative, we need to be scrappy because these other institutions, they have far more market presence and they can outspend us on marketing every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think innovation, and if you ask me, me being a very strong proponent of data, I think you would need data and analytics to grow the credit union to the next level. Because
Mhm.
again, to your point, marketing spend, I quote this number every now and then. JP Morgan Chase has a $15 billion spend every year on technology. That's not even asset size of one of our largest credit unions that we have. Right? So unless we become scrappy, unless we think innovative, it's not possible, right? And I'm glad that you think through that way. Absolutely. Now talking about vision, right? So what is a big picture vision that you are building towards? You might have something in mind, right? So what is that?
So, as I mentioned, the credit union hasn't grown significantly in nearly a decade, and the board has given me a very strong mandate for growth. They're eager to see the credit union take off. One of my board members has said to me, I feel like we're a sleeping giant, just waiting to be seen in this market. And so my vision involves finding a space for FirstMark to differentiate in this market so that we can stand out, so that we can generate that growth. And in talking with my team, we agreed that there are a lot of things that we have great products, we can market our products, we can talk about value and benefits, but to a large degree, that's a sea of sameness.
Yeah,
And we talked about the old book, the Blue Ocean Strategy, and how we need to find that blue ocean, right?
yeah,
Where we can stand out from the crowd, swim away from that shark infested
exactly.
waters, and really look to generate that growth. And I think that starts with each individual person, each one of our team members living out our mission of putting members first and working with them to make their lives better.
I think what you talked about is very relevant. Sea of sameness, right? I mean, there are 4,500 credit unions in the country. Right? So what is different? And again, I keep on sounding like a broken record, Wendy. We are not competing against the cheeses of the world. We are not competing against the big banks. We are competing against the Spotify and the Netflix and the Amazon of the world. Because when I wake up in the morning, I mean, I start my day going to Spotify, right? And it has a curated list of songs that I would want to listen every single day, right? When I go to bed, I look at Netflix, right? And looking exactly the curated recommendations that I've had. So now the expectation of a basic consumer is I won't tell you what I need. Can
Mhm.
you predict what do I need? What are my life events, right? I mean, a basic example, right? Not relevant, but still, in terms of what you talked about is uniqueness. Why is personalization important in my 2 cents? If you're sending an offer to someone for a HELOC who does not even have a mortgage, you're wasting your dollars, right? So
It happens, doesn't it?
exactly, and
But it does.
that has to change. The sea of sameness has to change. Personalization has to come in, and talking about actual value proposition. Why this credit union? Why not something else? So I absolutely get you completely. Now, as we all know, I mean, that's another reason I got hooked up into credit unions because of the legacy, right? I mean, I'm a huge believer of legacy, but again, at the same time, we just cannot hold on to legacies and just being a sleeping giant and not do anything, right? For the lack of better words. So how do you, plan to balance legacy and the fresh new change that the board has asked you to drive because it's not on the same board, it's parallel threads.
Hmm. Yeah, so FirstMark started out as San Antonio Teachers Credit Union
Yep.
and changed the name in the early 2000s after having gone through a uh, uh, field of membership conversion to community. And that was all the trend, right? In the 90s, early 2000s. And I think what a lot of us learned along the way was community is not necessarily a silver bullet. And it goes back to that blue ocean strategy again, right? It's all of a sudden you're in that sea of sameness with everybody else.
Yep.
So when you walk away from those employer groups, you lose what makes you special. And so pros and cons to each
Yep.
strategy because I get it sometimes it does get tough to grow if there's always a barrier. But I look at credit unions like schools first. They remain limited to education employees and they're what,
Yep.
38 billion in
Yep.
asset?
Yep.
So I think there's opportunity for FirstMark to continue to leverage its legacy. We maintain and will continue to nurture very strong ties to our local education community. And while historically that was teachers,
Yep.
in my view, it's so much bigger. And under the prior CEO, that continued to expand, that had expanded, and I look to continue to expand that. Um, Here in Texas, there's a lot, especially here in San Antonio, there are 13 different school districts.
Yep.
They all report up to a region. And so we've developed relationships with the districts, with the regions, as well as at the individual school sites. We've developed special events like this coming Saturday. We are sponsoring the annual Teacher Fest.
Yep.
And we currently have over 650 registered attendees. And they come in and they get goodies. We've been doing a school supply drive and okay, a lot of folks, a lot of entities do school supply drives, right? Our school supply drive is focused on what the teachers
Yep.
need in their classrooms. Um, so a little different twist than the school supplies for the children because lots of organizations are doing that. So we look for those opportunities to make a difference in spaces that other people aren't
Yep.
and leveraging that legacy while continuing to grow throughout our communities. I really believe that credit unions do make people's lives better. And where FirstMark can do that throughout our communities, um, by promoting education. I've told the team my sister manages a school bus company, and school bus drivers are part of our educational system. Here in
Yep.
San Antonio, we have teaching hospitals. There are so many opportunities to honor our legacy and find niche areas in which to grow.
Absolutely. I think it's about identifying a strength that what you need to do, right? And your example of schools first, exactly right. I mean, they haven't changed. So beat the other ones, Penn Fed, the Navy Feds of the world.
Yes.
Same philosophy, right? They've grown huge right now. Even Boeing.
Yeah,
Understand absolutely right. Yeah. Well,
Navy
in
Fed
fact,
is a really good example because while they started just with Navy,
yep,
under that DoD tip charter, now anyone associated with the DoD can join. And that's more of my vision for FirstMark.
yep, absolutely. I mean, more than happy to help you any way possible.
Thank you.
Uh, moving on to the next part. I mean, I personally have gone through a lot of challenges in my life, coming from India a long time back. So let's talk about challenges, right? Now, obviously, this role that you've got in, you haven't got in without challenges. You had to you went through six credit unions and finally, I'm sure, interviewed for like months and years to get into this role, right? So, what are the challenges that you faced, Wendy, throughout your life and career to come up to this level for the person who you are today?
Well, I guess I would start by saying no matter how prepared you in your career, no matter what you've done, nothing can 100% prepare you for this role. Logically, you can come in knowing that it's it's a very solitary position. It's the only one in the organization that you have no peers. And so the network is really important. Um, and again, you understand coming in that this is a role where everyone is looking at you, looking to you for direction.
Yep.
And personally, I thought, yeah, but the same was true in my prior executive roles, and I worked with the board in prior executive roles. But the reality is, at the end of the day, it stops with you. And the weight of that responsibility, which don't get me wrong, the job can be a lot of fun,
Yep.
extremely rewarding and satisfying. But again, nothing can fully prepare you for the responsibility either. Um, I would say, with regard to that challenge, any challenge I've had in my career, I've learned to use resources. You
Yep.
mentioned data earlier, data analysis, that's huge for me. Um, Using my network, having a board of advisors, if you will, around me. And now that looks different than it did in prior roles. So I'm having to build out a stronger CEO network. Um, and my team. I inherited an amazing team here. I'm very thankful for that, and especially coming from the outside into this role, I have a very tenured team who is able to let me know the background of a lot of things here at FirstMark so that when we're facing challenges, we work through them together. I've when you make the transition from
Yep.
individual contributor to leader,
Yeah.
uh, one of the things that sometimes I see people struggle with, and I probably struggled with earlier on as well, was recognizing that you don't have to have all the answers. You rely on your team and work out the best solution together.
Yeah, that's perfect, right? So that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Now I'm gonna ask you about what drives you. You talked about this is a very solitary role. You don't have any colleagues. at CEO level. Obviously, in an organization, there can be just one CEOs. So, what drives you as an individual to again wear that CEO hat every single day and do that same thing of leading an organization with purpose? Because what I understand in a CEO role of a credit union, whatever friends I have, the entire organization is looking up to you, right? Not only the organization, the members
Hmm.
are looking up to you for a resolution. They might just drop a note to you, Wendy. Wendy, I'm not able to use my credit card because of XYZ reason. You have to
Hmm.
get and go solve for it. So this is the most tough. That's the most toughest role. It's not just developing strategy, but executing them one by one because you're responsible for your strategy and executing and results at the end of the day. So what drives you as an individual?
Coffee.
That's the most obvious answer.
Um, Honestly, I truly believe in credit unions and what they do to make people's lives better. The concept of a rising tide lifts all boats. So every time a credit union makes a difference in a member's life, it benefits their family. And every family whose life is improved benefits whole communities.
Yep.
And I see credit unions beyond that impact that they make with each individual member, partnering with community organizations, whether it's chambers of commerce, nonprofits, to lift up people. And personally, one of the things I discovered about myself throughout this career journey is that it's really important to me to feel like I am making a difference in people's
Yep.
lives every day. And that's why I think credit unions got into my blood so much because that's what this industry does. And it really, you mentioned purpose driven. It draws people in and keeps them if it's important for you, if you believe in enriching people's lives through bettering their financial well-being. So, I
Mhm.
mean, even back to that first job in a branch, I still vividly remember certain members that I had to be creative and really work through their challenging financial situations alongside them to help them achieve their goals. And that impacted me possibly more than it impacted them because it stuck with me. And so it's that belief that everyone benefits from credit unions that keeps me going, and the team members, those folks who are on the front lines
Yep.
impacting members' lives every day, they inspire me.
I agree. So let me wrap this show with one last question, right?
Okay.
Uh, what do you think in 2025 is the creative movement up to? I mean, what is the future of the movement? What do you think?
Um, it's a challenging time, but credit unions were born out of challenging times. And throughout the decades, I worked for a credit union during the financial crisis that really, really struggled. And we had to make some tough decisions. We're going to continue to have those ups and downs. I think the biggest challenge is making sure we remain relevant. Earlier, you mentioned curated information, content, that personalization. And for some credit unions, that it's difficult to get that kind of data and the analytics to do that. I unfortunately see continued consolidation in our industry. I really feel for our smaller credit unions. I think there's a space there, but finding that niche and I think the larger scale credit unions can deliver on the type of digital sophistication
Mhm.
that consumers are going to expect more and more. Um, so I guess that would be My answer is continuing to weather those challenges, maintain relevancy using technology.
Wendy, this was amazing. This was an amazing episode that I had. With a new CEO, that's always exciting because episodes with new CEOs are always full of new insights, nuggets. I think we have to do more of these, not just one. We'll do more round tables. But again, Wendy, thank you for spending your
Thank
time today with
you.
us. We completely appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. Hey, good luck with your flight.
Thank you.